So, without further ado, the first speaker who will welcome us on behalf of my employer, Tallinna University of Technology, Tallinna Law School. This is Katrin Nyman-Metcalf, professor of law and technology. Esimesena siis palume tervitussõnadeks Katrin Nyman-Metcalfi.
Good morning. I'm glad to see that there are some entrepreneurs who have realized that diversity really does enrich. I hope more will be joining later. And this doesn't enrich only because you'll be thanked in heaven, but because it actually will give you a lot of benefits much sooner than that. To have a good, sustainable diversity policy, it's not to hire a lesbian, disabled woman from an ethnic minority. It is to hire a really good lawyer, or economist, or waitress, or whatever it is you're looking for. And some of these people happen to be disabled, lesbian women from an ethnic minority. This may sound like it's overly idealistic and naive to think that we look past these kind of etiquettes that society puts on people. But I actually would say that I don't think it is so naive or utopic, because I'm sure you all know people who fit into these categories that are put under these labels by society. And I'm sure you don't think, oh, I will go and ask that member of an ethnic and religious minority if he can help me with my PowerPoints. You don't think, oh, I'm going to call a gay guy and see if he wants to go to the cinema. You think, I'm going to go and ask Ahmed if he can help me with my PowerPoints. I'm going to call John and see if he wants to go to the cinema. You think of people as individuals when you know them. The challenge is just to get to that point before you know people personally, to think like that, for instance, in a situation of hiring people, or in any situation related to business or other elements of your daily life. To look at people as individuals rather than in these categories that we like to label in different ways. I'm personally, I don't know if I'm supposed to say what I think personally, but I will do that anyway. I'm personally against all quotas. And I am that for two main reasons and then lots of sub-reasons. The main reasons are that I believe everybody has the right to be judged just based on their competence and merits. And the other reason is that I think it's a simplified solution. It's something that is done and then people feel they've done something and they don't think about the underlying problems and how to really overcome all those prejudices that people have and what are the reasons why some people in society cannot fulfill their full potential, which would be for the benefit of everybody. I have at the moment in my class in Tallinna Law School two disabled young men happen to be in the same group. They are brilliant students. They are the kind of people, if they would want to come and work for any of you when they graduate, you can count yourself very lucky. They haven't needed any assistance to get there, and they certainly don't need any assistance to get on in their courses. But obviously, they need wheelchair-accessible facilities to be able to fulfill their potential. This, in a way, is something that's relatively easy to see because we can all see that and we can kind of easily grasp what it is that's needed to allow them to fulfill their potential. There are other things, other kinds of prejudices, other kinds of categorizations of people that it may be more difficult to deal with. And this is where I hope that this what looks like to be a very interesting discussion will really help to find those ways then how to overcome such other obstacles that may not be quite as simple as just making sure that there is a lift up to the rooms where these people work. And as you are aware, Estonia came later to this issue than, for instance, our Scandinavian neighbors. This doesn't mean that we're years behind, because we're well known for learning quickly. So I think it is a sharing of experiences, but there's definitely a lot to be learned from different environments, because these issues can be dealt with, should be dealt with, and the main reason they should be dealt with is because it is absolutely true that diversity enriches, not least from a purely business, economical perspective, quite leaving aside the humanitarian and personal issues. So with that, on behalf of Tallinn Law School from Tallinn University of Technology, I will not take up more of your time, but I wish you all very welcome and look forward to these very interesting couple of days. Thank you very much.
I have to say that Tallinn University of Technology is the most international of Estonian universities, and I'm happy also to report that the university is working quite hard on diversity without even having any specific plan or this kind of program, but it's been doing a lot of good things, and we do have a very diverse student and faculty body. Next, we have a word of welcome from Tiiu Aro, who is currently fulfilling the responsibilities of the Chancellor of Ministry of Social Affairs, who is our good partner in has been in our projects, and who will give her words of welcome. Nii et järgmisena palun Sotsiaalministeeriumist kantsleri kohustes Tiiu Aro.
Tere hommikust ka minu poolt. Ma võtan endale esiteks õiguse olla puldi taga, siin on kindlam, ja teiseks riigiametnik on riigiametnik. Erinevus rikastab. Ma alustaksin sellest, et umbes 16 aastast tagasi tegi Eesti ilmselt oma esimesed sammud üldse võrdse kohtlemise ja võrdõiguslikkuse teemal. Juhtus see siis Sotsiaalministeeriumis, kus loodi soolise võrdõiguslikkuse büroo, ja ma arvan, et see on olnud suuresti Eestis võrdse kohtlemise nagu esimeseks verstapostiks. Läks aastaid, 2004 nägi ilmavalgust diskrimineerimise vastane seadus ja 2008 võrdse kohtlemise seadus. Nii et tee on olnud ühest küljest küll pikk, aga teisest küljest 16 aastaga on, ma arvan, tehtud päris tõsiseid edusamme. Ja eks see kõik ongi loonud maastiku ja võimalused, et me saame täna siin arutada niisugusel olulisel teemal, nagu on võrdne kohtlemine ka ettevõtetes. Ja ma tean, et see kõik toimub projekti Erinevus rikastab raames, ja põhikorraldaja siis sellel tänasel üritusel on Tallinna Tehnikaülikool. Ees on 2 tõsist tööpäeva, päevakava on muljetavaldav, on huvitavaid lektoreid teile siia kutsutud, ja minu meelest märkimisväärne on see, et tahetakse jõuda liitumisele kokkuleppega, mis on minu meelest väga selge, inimlik ja absoluutselt üheselt mõistetav, ja tundub, et kas meil on üldse vaja niisugustes asjades kokku leppida, aga ilmselt on. Ma tsiteerin lihtsalt paari lõiku kokkuleppest. Väärtustame oma ettevõttes teineteise austamist, mitmekesisust ja võrdse kohtlemise põhimõtet. See peaks olema igas asutuses, iga tööandja ja iga töötaja jaoks täiesti iseenesest mõistetav. Või teine, kaitseme oma töötajaid diskrimineerimise eest. Aga ju siis on probleeme ja on hea meel, et niisuguste informatsiooni edastamise ja koolituse ürituste kaudu püütakse olukorda teadvustada esiteks ja astuda samme lahendamise teel. Ja selge on see, et üks ettevõte ja tema juhtkond huvitub ju tõepoolest sellest, et inimeste potentsiaal oleks võimalikult hästi rakendatud, ja see toob kaasa ka arenguid töökeskkonnas, mis omakorda motiveerivad töötajaid andma paremat sisendit tööprotsessi ja tänu sellele olema edukamad ja tõstetakse ka asutuse mainet. Ja veel kord, et see kõik, mis täna siin nii mõnegi asutusega ja ettevõttega on plaanis kokku leppida, ei jääks ainult sõnadeks, on vaja lisaks suhtumisele ka koostada tegevuskava ja mitte ainult seda, on vaja seda, et meie sõnad muutuksid ka tegudeks ja kokkulepe näeb ette ka regulaarset tegevuskava ja kokkuleppes sätestatu järgimist. Nii et soovin teile selles töös edu ja mul on isiklikult ka hea meel, et ma olen olnud kunagi selle asja alguse juures. Aitäh!
Suured tänud, Tiiu Aro. Võin võtta selle. Suured tänud. Pean ütlema, et selle 3 aasta jooksul, mis me Sotsiaalministeeriumiga oleme koostööd teinud, see on olnud tõesti väga mitmekülgne, väga huvitav ja mõlemale poolele väga kasulik, ma arvan, üritus ja tegevus ja väga hea meel on, et ka Sotsiaalministeerium suhtub sellesse küsimusse väga tõsiselt ja peab seda oluliseks. Teine oluline partner, kes meil selle ürituse juures on kindlasti ka Euroopa Komisjon, kelle esindajad kahjuks täna siin ei ole, sest et nende reisirahad on otsa saanud selleks aastaks, et komisjon ei saanud lubada seda endale, et siia tulla, aga see-eest on ta väga palju panustanud rahaliselt meie tegevusse ja hoiab meie tegevusel silma peal ja on väga huvitatud sellest, mis me siin teeme. Ja te kuulete ka homme komisjoni esindaja lühikest videotervitust. Aga Eestis on meil veel häid partnerid, kellega koos me teeme väga toredaid asju ja järgmisena annangi sõna Briti suursaadikule Chris Holpile, kes on siis meiega koos ka väga kaua, me oleme juba koostööd teinud ja kes on aidanud meil väga palju erinevaid asju teha ja kes on väga huvitatud ja tegelikult ma pean mainima ka seda, et Briti saatkond korraldas ka kevadel juba sellel samal teemal ürituse, mis oli ka väga populaarne ja võiks öelda väga kordanenud. So next we will have welcome words from the Ambassador of the United Kingdom, Ambassador Chris Holpy, please.
My thanks to Kari and his team at the University, to the boss as well. And thank you very much for asking.
Excuse me.
Oh, it's not on.
It's not on. Yeah.
Is my voice too loud anyway?
Hello? Ah. You may wish you couldn't hear what I'm going to say. I was just saying thank you. And thank you very much for inviting us again to come and support what you're doing. And we didn't hesitate for a second in saying, yes, we would do that. My team and I at the embassy are very pleased. We're very proud to support what you have been doing in this organization and through the events that we've been doing together in the past. And as important as discussion is, and the discussion's got to continue, it's really good that we're now moving forward to a stage of implementation. And this charter is really very important. Several of us met in March together where one of the items of discussion was the charter. And now we're seeing by the end of the year, the companies are now signing up to it, and organizations. Supporting diversity is the right thing to do. It's important because it's one key part of how our societies work better. But it's also important, and I think companies and organizations realize it, because it helps their bottom line. And I mean bottom line both in terms of people want to work for companies that are good, that are diverse, and because people realize that companies and organizations that are diverse produce things that are much better. They are more creative, they are more productive, and they've been proven to be more profitable. So in every way, this is winning. We need to get that message out even more, I think. The speakers you're going to hear are really top class. I hope I'm not seen as undiverse if I draw attention to one of them in particular. I'm very pleased indeed that Amanda Rice is here from the BBC, from a brand that is recognised around the world and is one of the most trusted brands in the whole world. And I think what she will say to us later today will show how diversity has helped that and helped them to produce some of the best programming and news in the world. So again, evidence that diversity really delivers. I'm looking forward very much to sharing time, ideas with you in the next couple of days. I have to leave very shortly now to go and I want to go to an event to mark the Holocaust. This is perhaps one of the biggest examples of what happens when people don't actually think through the implications of what is going on in society. But I will be back after that. So once again, thank you very much. Congratulations to Kari and his team on what they've done, and look forward very much to our discussions in the next couple of days. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you to Chris and his team, who have also supported us very a lot. The final speaker, last but not least, of course, is another partner that we have had the pleasure of working with. Is the representative of Flemish government, Koen Haverbeke. So järgmisena siis Flaami valitsuse esindaja Koen Haverbeke. Please.
Dear Mrs. Chancellor, dear Professor Neyman, Ambassador, dear ladies and gentlemen, it's for me, I'm most happy that I can be here amongst you today. I'm also based, I'm representing the Flemish government in Poland and in the 3 Baltic republics. I'm sure you're all aware of the fact that Belgium is quite rich in beers and in chocolates, but you might not know that we also have 3 languages. Not going to go too far into detail, but just let me mention that it has been at the origin of a state structure which is described by some as confusing and complicated, which we say is challenging and interesting. Let me just say that we have reached, as a result, a very high degree of devolvement. Devolvement which has also allowed us to sign treaties, which we did with Estonia in 1996. Implementing this treaty, we do it through working programs. We signed the last one beginning of this year for the period 2012-2014. Estonia, ladies and gentlemen, is high on the agenda in Flanders. We have this working program, we have this agreement, but we also implement it. We have had delegations traveling in both directions very actively, dynamically this year. We had a parliamentary delegation from Estonia in Flanders this year. There will be 2 coming next year, and I could go on for some time. Today we are most happy to be partner in this conference, explaining also why we brought the Flemish Emancipation Officer Ingrid Pelzers to Tallinn. I also want to acknowledge the presence of the Belgian company Rail Gourmet that will participate in the panel today, and Mr. Bruno Joly is already here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most important developments in our society in the last 100 years is without any doubt the active participation of women in the economy, in politics and in society. This has fundamentally changed the organization of our society and more specifically the way we interact. In Flanders, we've noticed a sharp increase in the participation of women in the labor market as from the 70s. It goes without saying that women have significantly contributed to the growth of our economy. In fact, if you want to be honest, we would not have reached that growth without them. Already in 2020, we will be facing a similar shortage on our labor market. It is therefore of paramount importance that we continue working on a diverse society and that we focus on women in management functions, on the inclusion of both the unemployed migrants and of the old job seekers, and not in the least of activating the less abled in our society. We all know that Estonia is doing very well and that you will be amongst the top growers next year. It also means that you will have to activate the best labor forces in order to sustain that growth. In this respect, the Estonian and the Flemish experience are not that different. Ladies and gentlemen, diversity and inclusion are not granted. They do require efforts, and most of all, they require an active diversity policy. Because we need to change both the thinking and the mentality. And as we all know, this requires efforts. It's not so long ago that one would hear remarks in Flanders, who will take care of the children when the women go working? Do they really want this? Do they have the capacities to do this? Believe me, in Flanders we had to go a long way. Just one example. It's only a decade ago that women were allowed to have their own bank accounts. To implement change management, we will need leaders, captains of society, captains of industry, top academics, but also, and not in the least, media support. The Flemish government fully realizes you can only expect as much of others as you're ready to do yourself. Therefore, roughly 20 years ago, the Flemish government decided to create the position of the Emancipation Officer. In a few minutes, you will hear the presentation of Mrs. Spelzer, who is sitting here in front of me. In fact, Mrs. Spelzer is best described as a change manager. In her speech, she will focus on lessons learned. How did we implement this kind of leadership? And most of all, how to reach this most needed diversity, including women, but also the less abled, the chronically ill, and not in the least, people of migrant origin. It also necessitates, without the slightest doubt, a profound openness on the work floor towards colleagues of differing sexual orientation. Let me conclude by congratulating the organizers, the Tallinn University of Technology, and most specifically the Tallinn Law School, on taking the wonderful initiative of organizing the conference and initiating the signing of the Diversity Charter. Both are clear signs of the leadership Estonia is once again championing in the region. Please know that Flanders is always ready to share experience, best practices, and not in the least, lessons learned. And it is unthinkable that I would step down from this stage without thanking specifically the organizers of the conference today. Naming them all would lead us way too far. But there are three people I definitely want to mention here. It's Christine Rasmussen, Marianne Mayork, and not in the least, Kari Käsper. Thank you so much for the good work done.